Welcome back, everyone, to another episode in the Titanium series. Today, I have for you a Hinderer XM-18 3.5. 3.5 standing for the length of the blade. It is made in the USA. And this review is inspired by Andrew 5117, also known as Car 9889 on Blade Forums. Recently we started chatting. I've actually always followed him on Blade Forums with his posts. We started chatting though. He commented on my channel and he mentioned, we talked about Hinderers, XM-18s, and he mentioned that he would like to see more pictures of this. So I'm doing one better. I'm doing a full review so you can get a full glimpse and get a deep dive into the knife. All right, let's take a look at some dimensions. So overall length, we're coming in at 8 1/8 of an inch, slightly under that. So again, the blade is about 3.5 inches, which ends up being right there, but the cutting edge is closer to, let's see, 3 1/8 of an inch. Over here, the handle, it's coming in at 4.5 inches. The width at what I believe is the widest let's just call it there. It's about 1.5 inches, slightly under, but over 1 3/8 of an inch. The thickness is coming in very close to 1/4 of an inch, not including the pocket clip. The weight is a little hefty, 5.85 ounces. I do want to call out this has a titanium scale on it, so keep that in mind. It also has a attachment. I can't for the love of me remember what it's called, but both these are from Hinderer. Just to kind of give you a comparison. So with the titanium scale, you're looking at, okay, now it changed, 5.82 ounces. This is one that's stock with a G10 scale, which most of its models are released with. Yeah, not that much difference. Interesting. Possibly due to this just being a different knife overall. I don't have apples to apples comparison. As you can see, this one is a different blade shape than this one. Interesting. Okay. Well, I thought it would be much lighter, but actually in hand, it doesn't feel too much difference. Let's take a look at a comparison, size comparison with some other popular models, at least to my awareness. So first one we got is the Chris Reeve Sebenza 31. It's a large Sebenza and it uses the Insingo blade shape. So size is very comparable. On the bottom, we got your Spartan SHF, the Harzy folder. This is also a full size. So yeah, much larger actually. So dwarfs both of these by at least closer to 1/2 inch of the blade. Let's see. Almost 3/4 of an inch. Interesting. I didn't realize the Harzy folder was so much larger. At least not on paper. It's not until you actually compare it to some other ones. Okay. Let's talk about the blade. So this is one of the many variations of Hinderer XM-18s. Again, this is a 3.5, so they do make a 3-inch model version of the XM-18. But let's talk about this one. This uses a spear point blade. It's the blade shape. And it has a fuller as well as a thumb stud, which also acts as a blade stop. So it's got the Hinderer insignia Hinderer knives, the horse head logo, tells you where it's made, and the steel, which is M390. It's got a finger choil right here, and which is nice because it feels good in both choked up and without the finger choil. Deployment, you can use the thumb stud, which again acts as a blade stop, or you can middle finger flick it with the fuller. You can also slow roll it too with the fuller right there, or the thumb stud. Let's see, I have sharpened this up. I've used it. It sharpens up great. Yeah, nothing wrong with the factory edge. It does come sharp from the factory, but I typically like to make my knives mine by sharpening them and using them, of course. That little symbol right there indicates this uses the tri-way. This is running on caged bearings, but it also gives you phosphorus and Teflon washers if you want to switch out the pivot system. Let's talk about the handle. So this is I believe it's a stone wash titanium scale. This is a very common pattern. This pattern is what they have on their stock G10 scales. But they translated that into the titanium version as well. It's got jimping on both sides. This is kind of mismatched because the finish is actually a working finish. Not only the blade, but as well as the titanium lock side. It's got your pivot screw with 3 body screws, and this attachment I added, but if you don't have one of these, it's going to come looking like this one with 3 standoffs. Let's see. So look at the lock side. You can orient the pocket clip for tip up or tip down, but for right hand carry. Not that you can't put this in your other pocket, but the intention is for right hand carry. I added an attachment which acts as a glass breaker. So that's just kind of customizing it, which is kind of cool about Rick Hinderer knives. He does provide options to customize. I feel like his knives are made to be functional, as well as hard use. They're slightly overbuilt, yeah, but it gives you options to kind of make it your own. Pocket clip, let's talk about that. It's got good retention. It's, as you can see, in the plenty of ramp to get through most thicknesses. Let's take a shot of that in the pocket. Quite a bit of knife sticks out, but there are aftermarket clips that make this a deep carry pocket clip. Oh, they are deep carry pocket clips, which makes this a deep carry knife. But I've just, when I first started deep carry pocket clips, I was all about them. But then after a while, I was like, yeah, you know what? I kind of like having the purchase of the knife to be able to retrieve it. Because sometimes a deep carry pocket clip, you're grabbing onto the top of the pocket clip to pull it out. And depending how well it's designed, you could put pressure, so creating more friction before you're able to actually pull the knife out. Real estate, let's see. It takes up a bit of real estate. It's not much more room that allows you to get your hand in there. Again, I don't put anything else in my pockets. It's at least not the same pocket as my knife. So really, will depend on your usage and how you carry your stuff. Let's talk about availability and price point. this, so without the titanium scale and this glass breaker attachment, $425. I got it from DLT Trading. The fuller version, so it's a non-flipper, fullered version. A lot of XM-18s are flippers, and it's more common to have a flipper than without. There are also ones without the fuller that are non-flippers but uses the thumb stud only. And these are rare. I don't see these pop up very often. So something to keep in mind. Let's see. These drop on plenty of online retail sites. I think, let me see, USA made blade, DOT Trading. There's a couple others. Can't remember off the top of my head. But Rick Hinderer actually drops these on their website. They sell direct. So I would, if you're looking for one, just go and sign up for, subscribe to newsletters from your favorite online retailers, specifically DLT Trading, USA Made Blade, as well as Rick Hinderer directly. Price point, again, $425 without the titanium scale and the glass breaker. But the titanium scale, this one was $200. And the back glass breaker was another $100. So adding $300, this is over $700 for this knife. You know what? I believe this is $200 for the titanium scale, because I think the horse head one is actually $250. But yeah, so this is a over $700 build. I don't regret it though. I love it a lot actually. It's great. So let's jump into my final thoughts, since we're already there. One thing that kept me away from Rick Hinderer knives for the longest time is because they have a customized pivot. You're just so used to knives out there that uses either a Torx screw or the Chris Reeve, which uses a hexagon driver, but they give you the tool, which is great. For the longest time, I just didn't want to get into knives that required a unique pivot tool. However, this is not that unique, because you just need a flathead screwdriver on this side, and if you can get some type of tool that holds those two openings stationary, you can unscrew this fairly easily. So either, let's say, the back of a razor blade, but be careful, because don't cut yourself. I actually have a just kind of that flat back edge of a knife that's really thin, and I just kind of set it in there and I unscrew the side, so it works perfectly fine. And then these body screws are all Torx screws. And then they also use Phillips for the pocket clip screws. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know why there's so many different tool bits needed for to disassemble this knife. I feel like he could standardize them to make it one tool. I haven't read enough into why that's the case, but I mean, if you want to take the pocket clip, you need Phillips. You want to take off the body screws, you need a Torx bit. If you want to take off the pivot, flathead with something that holds onto this side. So just makes it a little bit more complicated. Not a deal breaker though. This Rick Hinderer knives are great. I like them a lot. Even though it took me a while to get in there to get used to get into his knives, but it's got jimping on top right here, so comfortable. Pocket clip, slight bit of pressure, but really not. It's negligible, so it's not really a big deal. Not a deal breaker for me, at least. But you can choke up if you need some extra control. So ergonomics are great all around. Action is smooth. It's got a detent ramp, so that way when it hits the detent right here, it does get over that detent ball fairly easily. Yeah, it's nice. Typically come well centered. Action's great. Just no blade play. Lots of great things going on for Rick Hinderer knives. And I must call this out because Rick Hinderer knives are one of the very few companies that continue to keep their pricing pretty consistent. Chris Reeve knives have gone up. Spyderco knives have gone up. Those are the main two, only because they're the two I keep the closest eye on. But knives have gone up everywhere. Everything's gone up, right? Eggs have gone up. So it's not that it's unexpected, but Rick Hinderer has kept his pricing fairly standard, and I can appreciate that. So, you know, the stock version being 425 has been that for quite a while. It's a couple years, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but at least from my observations. But overall, I think this is worth it. Even if you don't get the titanium scale on the back spacer, and if you have something that's something like this. This is a Monkey Edge exclusive, as you can see with their insignia right there, and also their signature frag pattern handles. So let's disregard that. This is just a standard one. Let's say it's $425. You're getting a lot of knife for it. So a lot of good things going on for Rick Hinderer knives. So I personally think it's worth it. Let me just give you another shot all around. The titanium scale also comes in many different colors, different anodizations. I actually have a working finish on a different knife. Made me wonder if I should just switch it to this, but I actually like the contrast. Right, little shiny, little matte. So, anywho, let me know your thoughts. Do you have one of these in your collection? Or do you like XM-18s or other Hinderer knives? Yeah, drop a line. Feel free to do so. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe if you want to get notified for future videos. And as always, stay frosty.